Acclaimed actor Rutger Hauer has passed away at the age of 75. Most audiences know Mr. Hauer from his stellar performance as Roy Blatty in the sci-fi classic Blade Runner. For me, I'll always cherish his truly menacing performance in the 1986 thriller The Hitcher. From Nighthawks to Sin City to Batman Begins to Flesh and Blood to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Mr. Hauer was a totally unique presence in cinema. No other actor was quite like him. We welcomed Mr. Hauer to our program in 2008. He had just released his infectiously enjoyable autobiography titled All These Moments, and he spoke to us from Amsterdam. Here is that interview.
Your parents were both actors, and unlike a lot of stories that you hear from the quote-unquote show business families, they didn't discourage you from entering the acting field, did they?
No. They were hoping that I would find a way to have a life, let's say, and it didn't really matter to them what that was, but I didn't know what to do, so they said try the acting school after lots of different jobs, and then I did, and then I got through it. And then I got I worked for theater for 4 years, and then I was discovered on camera, let's say.
Yeah, and your first major collaborator, I guess it would have been Paul Verhoeven.
Yeah.
And you both strike me as artists who kind of relish the chance to take risks and to see how far you can go with material. Tell me some other things that you guys have in common that made that collaboration sizzle like it did.
I think it sounds funny, but the common sense I think we also have in common, which makes you not float too much. Let's say the balloons that are also full of air, we tend to kind of hold on to the earth, both of us. And I did 5 films with him and one television series.
Right.
So we kind of got to know each other, and it was always really great to work with him.
Mm. Yeah, that's one of the all-time great collaborations, in my opinion. Jerry, you actually had a question about the period of time.
Yeah, speaking
Wicked
of...
sense of humor pretty much, I think, also comes in both of us. And
yeah.
But the sense of reality...
That's apparent on screen, too.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. But speaking of, one of the films you collaborated with him, Soldier of Orange, and there are also several other films that you did in the World War II genre that you seem very comfortable, very at ease, because you have a very diverse range. You play like all characters across the whole spectrum. And I was just curious, what is it about that genre that attracts you?
Nothing really.
Okay.
People ask you what genre do you like, and I don't really have a genre that I like, and I have to be honest, I don't see a lot of films. I still work very much, and then when I'm off, I tend to not look at films for a bit, and so I kind of catch up later. I think everything is make believe, whatever genre you want to call it. The thriller, The Hitcher, I thought is one of my favorites as well. It's not that I like the genre so much, and also Blade Runner. It wasn't my genre, but I thought the script was wonderful, and it just these films just work out, and you never know if they do or if they will. I don't think so.
Yeah.
It feels good when you make them, but you never quite know how far they will live, how long they will live. Very Blade Runnerish.
Right.
How long will I live?
But I think it was
4
probably
years.
Nighthawks was the one that brought you to America, right? To American audiences?
No, not really. The film that brought me to America was, funny enough, was Soldier of Orange. Mm-hmm. And I got like a limited run in cities, and I did press for that, and that was my first It was my second time in America because Turkish Delight was also, that was, what was it again? It was up for an Oscar nomination, and then there was like a whole thing because there was a lot of nudity in the film that they called it X-rated, and that you couldn't have a nomination for an X-rated film. It was a big thing at the time. So that was my first time. The second time was Soldier of Orange, and I got a good run and a good idea. And also that was a film that Ridley saw, Why He Wanted Me. So
Okay.
I mean, that film in many ways is sort of my bridge to the United States, or for that matter, an international career.
Right.
So I owe a lot to that moment, and also to Paul Verhoeven, and to the guy, the real guy, who I was performing a war hero. He just recently died, Erik Haseloff Ulsema, and we became the best of friends. And he died when he was 90. He just died a couple of months ago.
Oh wow.
Anyway,
it's interesting though how Nighthawks has kind of gained a cult status now. I find as the years go by.
Because of terrorism, and that was sort of the first. I mean, in Europe, that we had quite a bit of terrorism in Germany mostly, and the whole thing in Munich was Santos. The character in Nighthawks was based on Santos, and Santos was also in charge of a raid of the Olympic Games in Munich.
Right.
But for the States, it was a new thing. And then, of course, now, I mean, this film I think I did this film in '80, so that's now it's almost 30 years. And then, look where we are now. So
absolutely.
Strange.
Yeah, it is. It is. But you talk about Nighthawks not being a pleasant shoot, and then a complete 180 seemed to be Blade Runner, because for the exact opposite reason. I think you're given free reign pretty much on your character in Blade Runner, while the Nighthawks experience was very constrictive.
Well, I mean, basically not so much free reign, but Ridley was open to ideas, and if he felt they made some sense, then he would use them, and that's sort of where we found each other. I mean, I don't want to be left alone. I would do very strange things. I know the director, but and Ridley and I found each other on that film, and that was after the Nighthawks film was a hard one, and that was such a relief, because I sort of was a bit dented in terms of my beliefs of American cinema making.
Right.
Or filmmaking. I went, wow, if it's that way, do I want to be here? I don't think so. So, big relief, and so nice that the film holds its own for so long. It's been so amazing.
Yeah, and part of the big joy for me in reading your book was that it's clear that you're an actor with so many ideas when you come to the set, and when you explain those ideas and how they came to fruition, that just made me so joyful to read that in the book.
Well, thank you. That's if it wasn't for the internet, I wouldn't really trust myself to write all that down, and even that is still, let's say, a map of the ideas that I have. I can't write it all down, but some of it, but the internet has given me some trust and some faith that people understand what you do, and that's very nice. I never thought they would understand that unspoken language, and they seem to really get it well. So that's very nice. And,
I'm wondering.
Nice
I'm wondering when you craft a performance, how much of it do you rely on intellect and how much on instinct?
I think I don't know. It's a mix. It's really hard to judge from me. I think I'd go. Let's say I think I follow the director and my instinct. I follow those lines, and then if the director is in it with me, then I can start doing little fantasies and having little outings with ideas, depending on what the parameters are. But most of it comes from just, imagination. I think that's where the audience needs to go, so why would I not start there?
Yeah, and so much of it happens in the moment too, and so it has such a quality that it's just alive on screen. I find too.
Yeah, well, lovely, lovely. I try, and I know, and how much certainty do you have as an actor? No, I don't believe you have a lot of that anyway. And there are times that I think I'm taking a role and I think I can't do it, and that doesn't last very long because I get my senses back. But at the same time, I don't know. I don't have that certainty. I don't want to go the road that I went, so I try to rediscover, characters if I feel that they are repetitive. I mean, if I play a bad guy, I have to have a good sense that I can do something with it.
Yeah.
That is worth doing.
Blade Runner is a movie that has survived and thrived so well over the years. Do you have a preference as to which one you prefer?
A preference for what? For which draft of Blade Runner, you mean?
For which cut of Blade
movie?
Runner that you think works the best?
The last one.
Really?
The last one is the one he wanted out first, and he was so right, and it's, the differences are still not major, I don't think. The film always plays because it's so strong, but this one is really a final cut, and and you feel it. It moves better, it's warmer, it's got a little more heart for all the characters, especially for Harrison Ford's character, who, I never cared for him that much, and then I was honestly outside of my role. I didn't see it happen.
Mm.
So, yeah, it's a masterpiece, and it's, I know no qualm saying that, and it's because of everybody, and especially Ridley's mind. But let me say something before we, I would have never written the book. Let's say, if I wouldn't have done it for charity. I thought it would be an interesting idea to write a nice book from the center of making movies, and where I stand as I do them, and see if I can raise some funding for a charity for AIDS that I have since 2000, and I do small things for that. And it's really odd because in the publicity that I do for the book, I always tell people, and it never seems to survive for some reason. And I think if people buy a book and they know it's that all the what do you call it, all the profits go to HIV and some a charity that I run and that I believe in.
Starfish.
It makes a difference, I would think.
Yeah. Well, I actually my list of questions.
I just want to get that out of the way.
No, absolutely, and I think that's crucial because in my list of questions here, I wanted to focus on your organization. It's called Starfish, correct?
It's called the Starfish, the Rutger Hauer Starfish Association.
Okay. and it's and all the proceeds from the book go to that organization, and actually, on the screen that our listeners are on right now, there's a clickable link. Click on the cover of your book. It will take them to Amazon where they can purchase it, and all the proceeds go to your foundation. So
yes,
I think that's crucial.
I fought for that because I wanted to have that on there, and they said, well, they'll find it inside the book, and I said, well, can you not put it on the outside of the book? All that stuff. Anyway,
yeah,
you only do this once,
right?
So tell me what your foundation, what this funding goes towards.
Well, I've decided after a couple of years of struggling and trying to be a hero in some, godforsaken small islands where AIDS is just, incredibly present, let's say, in the Turks and Caicos Islands, I decided that there would be more result if I would be a little closer to the source, and because I was mostly not there, so I decided to bring it to wherever I would be. I'll do something, and on that route, I've discovered some really interesting people that I can trust and that I can work with and do something good if I have funding. And the other thing that I thought was, why don't I bring it back home to my own profession and see if I can find some filmmakers who will, work with me on this. It doesn't, just the idea, a concert for AIDS. why don't filmmakers do film for AIDS? And so I'm sort of doing that at the moment. And I started it last year. So I'm bringing it home to my own craft. So, you know, I'm closer to it, and you know, we use our craft to get it out there. It's basically all about the same thing: awareness, and you know, let's not forget, you know.
Absolutely.
And the heart of the core of the whole thing is that, you know, pregnant women and children, I'm trying to give them help. It doesn't matter what it is, and it doesn't matter where it is. I'll do it if I can. I think I'm going to go to Romania next. And I was there a couple of years ago, twice. And one of the things I found was that there was a village, basically, sort of almost like a concentration camp, but a nicer setup for the kids because they were orphans. Nobody cared for them, and because they did get medicine, they had to live somewhere. It was an Italian, Mino D'Amato was his name. He sort of was responsible for a whole village being built by Italians in Bucharest and Romania. And the people, nobody stopped him because the politics, they couldn't stop him because they thought that was too painful, so they let him go. So illegally, he put a hospital in Bucharest, and then he put like a village for kids with HIV there, orphans. And now I'm going there. I'm going to try and get a pool together because I remember, you know, how much they wanted to go for a swim, and the river is polluted, and the swimming pools don't allow them to swim because they think that's going to kill people. So that sort of thing is what I'm doing. And I do other things, you know. I'm hoping to get some documentaries going, you know, from filmmakers who I can send to China or whatever.
Well, I applaud you.
Made in China, different brand. Yeah.
Do you feel, excuse me, Mr. Hauer, do you feel that you're also like battling a lot of ignorance about the
AIDS? No, sure.
It sounds like from what you said about Romania, it sounds like there's still a lot of ignorance about the truth about the disease.
Well, yeah, I don't know what to call it. You know, it just needs to be done. It needs to be done, and there's so much, you know, that you can do, even in the little things, you know, and that's all I'm doing. I'm doing things when I can, and I know where to find them too.
Right.
I don't look at a city, you know, through you know, the glasses of bling, or you know, I take one look at a city and I can see where the different routes are, and I'm going to go shopping, and I don't mean that in a nasty way.
Right. No,
I'm going to go shop. You know, get to know the places a bit. So I'm not just an actor who lives in a hotel and shoots a movie there.
Right.
Well, we have a link on our website here where they can purchase your book, and it's a fantastic, fun read, and icing on the cake that the proceeds go to help your AIDS. So I think that's absolutely essential.
Okay.
Before you go, can I ask you about The Hitcher, because that's one of my favorite films.
You can. How long do we have?
We have as long as you want to give us, but I don't.
All right. Okay. Fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to overstep my boundaries because this is long distance, I know, but
never mind. Yeah, you'll live, I'm sure.
The Hitcher is absolutely one of my favorite films of that genre, just because it's so down and dirty and kind of relentless. But I had a different kind of view of how you portrayed the character from when I read your book and read your take on it. I thought that you probably didn't require it was a role that didn't require you to find the humanity in it. But you had a very...
You're right.
Is that correct, or do you have a different take on that character?
Are you asking me if it was a role that didn't... Can you be a little more precise, and I'll answer it precise?
Well, because a lot of times characters, when they play so-called villains, they search to find the humanity in the character, and I thought that this was a different kind of role.
Okay. In what way?
Well, it's an unstoppable force.
Are you saying you didn't feel the humanity?
I don't want to. I thought
you can say anything you want.
I thought that the character represented an unstoppable force, and that's what he was.
Right.
The
force of what? I'm interviewing you now. The force of what?
Like an unstoppable, like a Terminator almost, just an unstoppable killing machine.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to take that away from you. It sounds fine. I play every character as humane as I can come up with, and it doesn't matter, what the character is. I play characters, I play people, basically. Yeah. And some people are really mean and others are not, So I thought he was charming. I thought he was one of the most charming men I would meet on the road.
Okay, all right. Speaking of charming, can I ask you a question? I know I'd like to ask a question if you have the time.
Yeah, you're asking the questions.
Yes, I know. I just don't. We don't want to, keep you or anything. But speaking of monsters, or you see the good, not the good, but you take the human element of each of your characters. What was it like playing Albert Speer in Inside the Third Reich? How did you approach that material?
Well, I approached it pretty much from, he'd written a book, a 500-page book in prison while he was in prison for 25 years, and I sort of took the stance, and I don't think as an actor, I don't think you should, you just have to make it believable, whatever the role is. But I thought, if the guy's in prison for 25 years, why would he lie?
Exactly.
So I based my let's say, sincerity or whatever you want to call it on that. But then, and then, of course, 10 years later, they discover he really lied a lot in that book. So he fooled me, and there you go. But, so you take the ingredients that you think make sense for the moment, and you work with them and see if the director likes them, and you take it from there. I'm afraid it's not a life-altering experience for me most of the time.
But
you know how actors sort of tend to go, "Oh yes, it changed my life," but that doesn't really seem to work for me. But maybe I'm missing something.
Well, but at the same time, in your book, I mean, you're essentially reviewing your career, so you have to have some. Yeah, well, that's what I want to ask you about the moments. What moments are you proudest of as an actor? The particular moments in a film where you say, "Oh, yeah, that was gold for me."
Well, that's sort of there are moments in some of my other films, like Legend of a Holy Drinker. I think is pretty brilliant. There's a short film I did called The Room that I think there's in the acting, but then also there's in the swordplay. I just love swordplay, in Lady Hawk and in Blind Fury and in horse riding. I love all that stuff. If I see an actor who rides a horse or plays with the sword as if he is really there, I just like that, and I was the master of that for a while. Let's put it that way, and that sort of simple stuff that is physical almost. It's physical. Understanding. I really like that, and am I proud of Lady Hawk? Yes, I am proud, but the most proud I am of the battle in the end because I did all of it, and the same goes for Blind Fury. And I don't think there's any actor who will ever do that, and I can act a little bit here and there too. Now it's a good mix.
Well, for a while there, because they talk about actors being emotional athletes, and you also used your physical athleticism as well for a good stretch of your career. That had to be fulfilling to have an opportunity to mix those two disciplines, I would think.
It is. If it works, it's great. I mean, it's hard to explain it. If you get hired for a role, you shoot the movie. This is about Blind Fury. You shoot it in where we shot it. I mean, in Texas and in Nevada, and they finish. They edit the movie, and then they come back and go, "Can you come back and do a sword fight? Because the end of the film stinks, and we'd like to shoot that." And then you're in front of one of the best swordsmen in history for films, who's always had like a black cap on his face and never been seen on film. God, his name escapes me right now. Yeah, and
talk about him in your book. I know.
Yeah, and he says, "You can do this. You can do this," and and it's so wonderful. It's just so wonderful to work with these kind of people. Yeah. And the same goes for horsemen, and and a lot of other people as well.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to take any more of your time up. You've been so generous to us. Yeah. And when you come back to the States, Mr. Hauer, please give us a call. We'd love to hear from you again. You're one of our favorites.
Okay, I'm going to go to Cannes first tomorrow to see if I can kind of get some wind going on a project that I want to direct for. It's been on my mind for 2 years now.
Is this a feature project?
Yeah. There's another thing that I can urge you to take a look, which is, I am very proud of it because I've been working on it for 4 years now. It's a website. It's an online website for short films. I've got a great bunch of judges there, and it's for filmmakers around the world. We're asking them for their short films, and that's going to be the first festival in Milan in September. And it's worldwide. If the films are not in English, they have to subtitle them. That's what's unusual about it. And because I did that, the quality is so high that I can, already I see great power in it, basically, and lots of fun, of course, and filmmakers, the new faces, you can see them there. The new faces of film.
Yeah.
Very
and that website is rutgerhauer.org, correct?
No, but that's my own website. This is called IC Films with IC, icfilms.org.
Okay.
You can find it inside my website too. There's links there, but icfilms.org, and it's great fun. And we got about 2,000 short films, and we've chosen about 120 now to run in September.
Well, this seems like a really kind of fulfilling time in your life because you're making your own stand and making your own difference towards AIDS. You teach acting. You have a short film competition.
They're all kind of things that give back pretty much. I think I have a system down where they all come back to the same thing. I mean, on the acting part, I think I've got a Rutger Hauer Film Factory going every year, which is the same thing. We make 30 filmmakers sweat like dogs and make them shoot tons of movies. And the experience is life-altering for them because I have something that nobody else knows. And I know where it lives, and I can bring it to them. And they love it, and it's great, So that's one thing. Then it's the short films. I'm trying to get a circle going that is a real network, not a fake one. In Europe, pretty much.
Well, Mr. Hauer, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We admire your work so much, and please come back to us anytime in the future you'd like to.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hauer.
Okay.
Bye-bye now.
Bye. It was nice talking to you.